tragedy that was indeed all too real. On this day in 1975, two young FBI agents went to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in the southwest corner of South Dakota, looking for a man wanted for beating and robbing someone there. They thought they spotted his truck and followed it, but the pursuit would cost them their lives.
The FBI says it's looking for 16 persons in connection with yesterday's fatal shooting on South Dakota's Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. The FBI says it does not believe at this time that the militant American Indian movement, responsible for the siege of nearby Wounded Knee in 1973, was involved.
The day after two FBI agents were killed at Pine Ridge, dozens of fellow agents descended on the reservation to investigate, scouring the area where the midday murders had taken place.
FBI sources said today that agents Jack Kohler of Colorado Springs and Ronald Williams of Glendale, California, both 28, were about to serve arrest warrants for assault when they were fired on and wounded. They were able to radio for help, but then the FBI said they were dragged from their car and 15 to 20 shots were pumped into them. One state official said it looked like an execution. In a later exchange of shots, one Indian was killed. He was identified as Joe Roberts or Joe Killswright. The rest of the Indians apparently escaped.
As the search for those involved in the shootout continued, another contingent of FBI agents arrived on the scene to join the manhunt. But 4 days later, they were still looking. And once again, the plight of the country's Native American population was making headlines.
The killings last week of two white FBI agents has refocused the nation's attention here. But in the 2 years since Wounded Knee, much Indian blood has been spilled.
Since Wounded Knee, the Indians of this reservation have lived in terror. Indians have been beaten, shot at, bumped off the highway with cars.
At the heart of the violence is the political division caused by Wounded Knee. On one side, the American Indian movement and its supporters versus the elected tribal leadership and its followers, who blame the AIM faction for the recent FBI deaths.
The Oglalas don't like what happened. And if the FBI don't get them, the Oglalas will.
What do you mean?
Just what I said. We have our own way of punishing people that way.
Shooting on the reservation.
You said it.
As it turned out, two AIM members, Robert Robideau and Darrell Butler, were later charged with murdering the FBI agents and tried in a federal court in 1976. The defense subpoenaed FBI Director Clarence Kelly in an attempt to show the Bureau had created a climate of fear on the reservation that had precipitated the murders. Kelly acknowledged that the FBI had set up a satellite post near Pine Ridge, saying both agents and Indians feared for their lives. The defendants were acquitted, based on evidence they had not fired the fatal shots and were acting only in self-defense. But the case was not closed. AIM leader Leonard Peltier, who had fled to Canada after the shootout, was arrested at his hideout and extradited. In 1977, he was tried and convicted on 2 counts of first-degree murder. Peltier was sentenced to 2 life terms in prison, but his conviction was controversial. His lawyers claimed judicial error and fabrication and suppression of evidence by the FBI. But the courts rejected Peltier's repeated appeals, and in 1985, he was transferred to Leavenworth Penitentiary, where 2 years later, he received some unusual visitors.
2 top Soviet doctors came to Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary today to treat Leonard Peltier, an American Indian activist who is losing his sight to eye disease. The Soviets claim he's received inadequate care.
Well, I think that if our American colleagues did examine him, say 3 or 4 months before, probably we wouldn't have been here right now.
Right, I believe he's received excellent medical care from the start.
American doctors believe there is no cure for Peltier's eye disease.
Most believe the Soviet doctors came here only to publicize alleged American human rights abuses.
I think we did call their bluff on this case. They've been using the Peltier case now as a propaganda device for many, many years.
Peltier's case was also publicized at home by Robert Redford, who in 1992 produced the documentary Incident at Oglala about the Pine Ridge shootout and the trials. Peltier himself wrote a memoir called Prison Writings, My Life is My Sundance. And over the years, Peltier's supporters continued to call for his release. But in January 2017, in one of his final acts, President Barack Obama denied Peltier clemency.